Welcome to Break the Cycle with Bethany Dotson, the podcast for high-achieving professional women who struggle with codependency, attracting emotionally unavailable partners, and who repeat dysfunctional patterns in love. I'm your host, Bethany Dotson, and if you want to learn more about how to break your cycle in love, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and be the first to know when a new episode drops. I'll see you inside. Today, I want to talk about how to create unshakable trust in yourself after repeated narcissistic abuse, after staying married to an emotionally unavailable partner, after getting 40 or 50 or even 60 plus years into your life and not knowing what a healthy relationship feels like, looks like. You have no point of reference for that. One of the biggest fears I hear from clients that I work with and women that I speak to the phone on each week is that I don't know how to trust myself. I'm afraid I'm going to fall for another abuser, another addict, someone who's got a lot of unhealed issues because I thought my most recent partner was the one. And this pattern usually gets worse and worse as the years go on. And it often gets worse, even in spite of somebody doing a lot of talk therapy, reading a lot about the narcissist, working really hard on themselves, getting into hobbies, doing a lot of self help stuff. So, I want to talk about just before we move into how to get this self trust, how to gain this trust within yourself, some common mistakes that I see people doing in an attempt to build up their self trust that often leave them feeling like they still can't trust themselves. So, the first thing that I see people doing, common mistake, is gathering a lot of logical information, researching the narcissist a lot, researching, they pull up WebMD or psychologytoday.com and they start reading about their ex or what the narcissistic behavior. And then they might have an aha moment. Oh, wow, this also sounds like my mom or my dad or my grandparents. And they gather a lot of logical information. And especially around the warning side of what are the warning signs? What do I need to look out for in the future? And this isn't bad. Okay. So this isn't all bad. It can certainly validate your experience when you feel like you've lost your mind and you're crazy. It can certainly feel good to get some logical information. But the problem with this is that the patterns you have in relationship are not stored logically. These patterns usually are rooted in trauma, and trauma is stored neurologically under your waking awareness and it's stored in your body. So you can read all about the narcissist that you want and still go back to your ex numerous times. You can learn all about dysfunctional childhoods and learn about those dynamics there and logically get that, but still struggle to have healthy friendships, healthy boundaries at work, healthy relationships with men well into your life. So the premise here is that logically understanding a concept does not heal your trauma because your trauma and the unconscious patterns that you play out in your relationship, your attraction patterns are stored deeper in your psychology. They're stored deeper in your subconscious programming and they're stored in your body as memorized emotional experiences, memorized emotions, the set of emotional webbing that you fire in response to certain scenarios in your life. So that's one mistake that I see people like arming themselves with a lot of research on the narcissist and hoping that the next person they date is a healthy person, but what they're really doing is still living their life from a place of fear and a place of self doubt. And when people live in their lives emotionally from a place of fear, they wall themselves off from taking risks. They wall themselves off from making empowering decisions in their lives and they keep themselves isolated and stuck. So this leads me to the second mistake that most people do that I want to talk about is in order to try to gain a sense of self trust, they tend to keep people away. And I see this happening in one of two different ways. So, the first way that people create distance in their relationships is like by physically isolating themselves. They feel deep sense of shame about their choices and their partner or their relationships, period. They may be going into work, they may be overhearing a story from a coworker who just got back from her honeymoon in Cancun with her beautiful husband, and they may compare themselves to coworkers, to friends, to family who seem to have it easier in their relationship setting, in their relationship life than they do. And so they tend to pull back and isolate themselves as a way of protecting and as a way to protect themselves from fear of judgment from other people. They don't want to hear, I told you so. They don't want to hear, yeah, well, I knew he was bad news the moment we saw him. So they pull back from other people in a way as a way to protect themselves. And what this is really, what pulling back and isolating yourself is really, is a trauma response. And it's a natural trauma response to try to protect yourself, but the more you isolate and the more you feel like you can't be fully yourself and you can't share yourself fully, the more distrustful you become because you're not trusting yourself to be who you really are. And when you fear judgment from other people, I've said this in previous videos before, what's really happening is that you are extremely self judging. You're judging yourself. And whenever you are afraid of a behavior from other people, you have that behavior in yourself and you're not owning it. So when people, if you're afraid of people judging you, it's because you are full force, probably beating yourself up, probably shooting yourself. Why did I stay so long? Why didn't I leave him sooner? Why didn't I do this? What's wrong with me? You probably have that negative tape going on in your mind and you're judging yourself. So isolating may feel like what you want to do naturally because as a way to protect yourself, but reinforces your lack of trust. The other way that I see people creating distance and isolating themselves is the reverse. They go full force into their healing. They sign up for 4 or 5 different programs at once. They get a therapist. They join 5 new gyms. They do all of these things. And that pattern of that they bring to their healing is the same pattern that they brought to their relationships. They go all in, they way overextend their boundaries, and then they hit a wall and they start to feel resentful. And resentment is a block to feeling love. It's a block to your healing. It's a barrier to creating emotional intimacy. And so there's a saying, how you do one thing is often how you do lots of things or even everything. So if you find that you tend to go all in full force, this is the person you like go emotionally all in on one person right off the bat. You move at lightning speed in your relationships and you fly by the little red flags. And then you hit a wall later on. You start to feel resentful. This person isn't showing up for me anymore. And you get into that codependent pattern. This also could be how you approach your healing journey. You go all in, you don't give yourself time to truly process or integrate or take breaks and you might start feeling resentful in your healing journey. And that resentment is a block, it's a barrier. It's also a signal that you're bypassing or overstepping your own boundaries. So, those are a few common mistakes. The other one, really quickly, that I'll touch on that people try in order to gain a sense of self trust after decades of ignoring red flags and feeling like, something's wrong with them is by staying chronically busy, is by being a workaholic. Um, and I see this a lot. People don't want to feel lonely. They don't want to feel like they're going to never know what a great relationship feels like. And we're wired as human beings to avoid pain and seek pleasure. There's a certain part of that's responsible for your pattern of ignoring red flags. Your pattern of ignoring red flags and hoping for the best in somebody is very common, is also rooted in your childhood or past adult relationships where you didn't feel safe speaking up or being truthful or setting a boundary. And your body memorizes those tense situations and memorizes a response to those tense situations by fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So you might become argumentative. You might disassociate and completely check out. You might run and write people off very quickly without having a conversation or trying to work through any conflict. Or you might be a people pleaser and approach tension or conflict from a place of, let me accommodate you, let me make you feel good so you don't dislike me, which is very common. So, those are some ways that you might have tried or maybe doing right now to gain a sense of trust in yourself. But these things are often not the end all answer. Logically gaining information is not going to heal your trauma. Isolating yourself is not going to heal your trauma. Going all in on 5 different healing strategies is also not going to heal your trauma because it's just going to overwhelm your nervous system, and you're bringing that same all in resentment pattern to your healing journey, and you're going to hit a block. So what do you need to really be doing to gain a sense of trust in yourself? You need to be working a trauma informed method. What is a trauma informed method? It does not include talking about your past and reanalyzing your past in the rearview mirror. It does not include venting all the time about your ex or your shitty boss or your shitty parents or what your kids are doing or what they're not doing or what your ex husband did this time or what the attorneys did this time. There's a place for that, but a lot of times people get stuck because what happens when you tell the story over and over again is that you reinforce the mapping in your brain and the mapping in your nervous system that is set to trauma, that is set to chaos, that's set to relationships. A normal relationship for me feels chaotic, and love feels chaotic. Love looks like not getting my needs met. Nobody wakes up in the morning and thinks that. Everybody wants a relationship that meets their needs, but subconsciously, there's that programming in there. So, trauma informed means using things like body based practices, body based work, movement based work, training your brain to be less focused on what's happening outside of yourself, triggered by your ex, being overwhelmed by all of the things you said yes to at work, being overwhelmed by your kids, by your dirty house, whatever that is, and retraining your brain and your nervous system to be, what's going on inside of me? What is going on? This happens through body based work. Like I spoke about movement. Here in Break the Cycle, we use trauma sensitive yoga, which you don't have to have any experience. It's just basically about being able to be aware of what's happening in your body. Breath work, specific guided meditations, things that are going to keep you out of your over analytical, logical mind. When you're over analytical and you over analyze everything and you live in anxiety and you're logical about everything and you don't allow yourself to feel your feelings, this is because you're living in a trauma response and you feel very disconnected from your body. And when you're disconnected from your body, you're also disconnected from your intuition and most of the time your feelings, because red flags are not something, red flags are something you sense in another person. And if you don't have a strong integrated connection with your body and you haven't properly processed trauma and haven't properly repatterned your programming out of trauma into something that's healthy love programming, you're going to continue to run into situations, whether it's a romantic partner, whether it's a job scenario, a coworker, a boss, whether it's a friend or a family member, that's going to trigger you to go back into your people pleasing, your fixing, your rescuing, you're argumentative, whatever the dysfunctional pattern is for you. So, using a trauma informed method that's going to bypass your over analytical, logical brain and get to your more subconscious programming and train your body to feel relaxed on a regular basis and feel at ease and feel calm and feel confident. And the way that we do this here and break the cycle is through somatic therapy, is an evidence-based way that's shown in research for healing complex trauma, which is the kind of trauma that happens inside the container of a romantic relationship or an interpersonal relationship, like a parent child, friend relationship, sister relationship, seeing relationship scenarios where you don't feel safe and you've had to develop coping strategies, unhealthy coping strategies to try to get your needs met. So, using some type of trauma informed method every single day to begin rewiring your brain and your nervous system. That is going to unhook you from fight or flight thinking, knee jerk reactions, living in anxiety, living in fear and worry. What if I meet another narcissist? A good relationship isn't possible for me. I'm too old. And it's going to start to train you to be more at peace and accepting with what is. And this goes a huge, long way when it comes to dating, because instead of overriding red flags or letting things slide, you now pick up on it and you pay closer attention and you actually do something differently about it rather than hoping things get better or getting hooked into chemistry or a strong, intense emotional connection. So, the other thing that needs to be happening in your life on a consistent basis is you must be taking risks or stretching your comfort zone in such a way that you're purposely putting yourself in positions to feel uncomfortable, to feel vulnerable, to feel ashamed, to feel embarrassed, to feel rejected, possibly, so that you get the opportunity to respond differently. And when most people have unhealed trauma from past relationships, they tend to get stuck in a trap where they're just existing in their everyday life. They're still ruminating about their ex. They don't know how to break that ruminating addiction. They're still, they still feel stuck in their life. They're still comparing themselves to other people. Why does this person have it a lot easier in relationships and I don't? They get hooked on the negative tape player of something's wrong with me in their mind. And that negative self-talk becomes addictive for your body because every time you think a negative thought about your ex or about yourself, your body has a chemical reaction to that. And the more you think negative thoughts, the more your body produces poor or not chemical reactions that don't serve you, the more you get into that rut on autopilot and it becomes challenging to break. So people get stuck in that and they don't take any real risks in their lives because they're afraid of failure. They're afraid of what could go wrong. And in order to develop that trust in yourself, you have to get out of your comfort zone because life is going to continue to challenge you, like it or not. It's going to continue to come and find you no matter how much you work or how much you unconsciously keep people out. You're going to have to challenge yourself. And things like for a lot of people that we work with here, they're overachievers, they're perfectionists, they do a lot. For a lot of people, that means doing less. That means not working 80 hours a week. That means finding smarter ways to manage your time. That means not feeling guilty when you tell your kids no and you prioritize your own self care. That means setting firm boundaries and having a hard, honest conversation with somebody close to you and not allowing their manipulation to weaken your boundaries or sidestep your boundaries. So you need to be doing trauma informed methods every single day to rewire your brain and your nervous system, practicing that, working with a coach, working with an expert, working with a therapist who's skilled and specializes in helping you overcome the specific trauma that happens in relationships or narcissistic abuse. And then you need to couple that with taking steps in your life toward goals, toward a healthy relationship, toward some kind of goal that's out of your comfort zone, and then using your tools that you've learned that regulate your emotional system, that rewire and get you out of that trauma response in challenging scenarios. And so it's really simple. It's two things: trauma informed methods, practicing that daily to rewire yourself. And then putting yourself in challenging situations out of your comfort zone, like dating again, and using your tools to help you navigate uncomfortable situations, challenges, wobbles, where you would normally default and go back to your old trauma programming. And so it's a simple path, it's a simple plan, but it's not easy to follow because human beings are complex. Trauma is complex, it's challenging. And the older you get, the more this stuff gets hardwired into your brain and your psychology. And most people, when they're left up to their own devices, like to stay complacent. They like to stay in their comfort zone because, in some ways, that keeps them safe. But the relationship that you want, the life that you want, is always going to be outside of your comfort zone. And in most cases, far outside of your comfort zone. And if you have spent most of your life settling or playing small because you're trying to fit into a relationship or you don't want to make people mad, those patterns that you've used up until this point are not going to get you where you want to go. And you need to learn new behavior. So if you are single or divorced, or you're in the process of divorce, but you're living separately, if you're successful in your career, you're professional, you work really hard, but behind closed doors, you constantly have the pattern of attracting dysfunctional relationships that drain you. It's not just isolated probably to your ex, it might be friends, it might be family, it might be work environments. And you've already done talk therapy. It's gotten you some insight, but you haven't gotten the results that you want. And you're ready to do some deep inner work and really step beyond yourself, step out of your comfort zone to have the type of life that you want after narcissistic abuse and eventually a healthy romantic relationship. Then we're making the time to show you how it's done. I invite you to book a free breakthrough call. Go to BethanyDotson.com/talk and we'll get on the phone for about 45 minutes and we're going to get you very clear on your pattern. A lot of people have an idea, but they're not super clear on why they're still stuck. So we're going to get you super clear on your pattern and what's really holding you back. And then the second part of the call, we're going to talk about what you really want. Most people also don't know what they really want. This is part of what the reason why they're stuck is they don't have clarity. So the biggest thing that we're going to give you on that call is extreme clarity. And from that point, if we feel we can help you, if we're confident that we can help you overcome your trauma, given your specific scenario, your place in life, we'll give you the details of how we work. And then at the same time, if we think there's a better path or a better solution out there for you right now, we're going to steer you in that direction. So either way, you've got the answer and you've got the steps to start changing your life and attracting healthy relationships. So again, if you're single or divorced, you're successful, you're a career professional, but you're behind the scenes, your relationships are always a shit show, then book a call, BethanyDotson.com/talk. And we'll speak about if we can help you get you extreme clarity. For a lot of people, just getting clarity can be a game changer in and of. And if we can help you, of course, we'll show you what that looks like specifically. I will talk to you very soon. Take care.
Thank you for tuning in to today's show. A brand new episode drops each week. Be sure to click and subscribe. And remember, healing trauma, codependency, and your lifelong pattern in love does not happen by itself. You need expert guidance and evidence-based methods. And I have helped hundreds of incredible women from all over the country heal betrayal trauma and reclaim their confidence while falling wildly in love with their own lives and attracting healthy relationships. If you like what you heard today and you want to see if you're fit to work with us, go to BethanyDotson.com/talk. That's BethanyDotson.com/talk and book a call to speak with us today. We'll get on the phone for about 45 minutes and get you crystal clear on 3 things. The real reason you keep attracting dysfunctional relationships, even if you know better or even if you've done tons of work on yourself. What you really want in a relationship, how you want to feel emotionally every single day in your life, and what lifestyle changes you want to make. And then number 3, the exact strategy you need to be using to get there. Again, healing trust issues, codependency, and a lifelong pattern does not happen without expert guidance. We've helped hundreds of women across the country heal complex trauma, codependency, and have the healthiest relationships ever both with themselves and with others. Go to bethanydotson.com/talk to book your call today. I'll see you on the next episode.